Have you ever wondered why financial abundance seems to flow easily to some people, while others struggle their entire lives? I want to share something powerful with you today that might challenge everything you believe about money and wealth creation. Look at your bank account right now. What story is it telling you? That you don't have enough? That you're struggling to make ends meet? That financial freedom is somewhere in the distant future, always just out of reach? What if I told you that story is merely an illusion, a mirage created by your own mind? The greatest barrier to your financial abundance isn't out there in the economy, job market, or your circumstances. It's within your own mind. This isn't just motivation or positive thinking. This is about understanding the sophisticated machinery of your consciousness and how it quite literally creates your financial reality. Let me ask you something deeply personal. If you woke up tomorrow with $10 million in your account, how would you truly feel? Excited? Relieved? Or maybe strangely uncomfortable? That discomfort, that subtle uneasiness at the thought of sudden wealth, reveals something profound about your relationship with money. For most of us, our connection to wealth is complicated by deep-seated beliefs we've absorbed throughout our lives, often without realizing it. Research in behavioral psychology shows that an astonishing 95% of people unconsciously reject wealth, even when it's directly within their reach. They sabotage opportunities, make self-defeating financial decisions, or simply fail to recognize abundance when it's staring them in the face. Think about the messages you've heard about money throughout your life. Money is the root of all evil. Rich people are greedy and corrupt. You have to work hard for every dollar. People like us don't get rich. Money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that. These aren't just harmless phrases. They're sophisticated programming that has created neural pathways in your brain. They've installed mental blocks that are actively repelling wealth from your life right now, in this very moment. These beliefs don't just influence your conscious thoughts. They shape your subconscious reactions, your instinctive decisions, and even your ability to recognize financial opportunities when they appear. Let's talk about the neuroscience behind your financial reality. Your brain is a meaning-making machine, designed to maintain what feels familiar and safe. If you've spent years living paycheck to paycheck, that pattern becomes your normal, and your brain actively works to maintain that status quo, even if consciously you want more. This explains why simply wishing for money or repeating affirmations often doesn't create lasting change. You're trying to override deep neural pathways with surface-level technique. It's like putting a fresh coat of paint on a house with a crumbling foundation. Neuroscientists have discovered that your brain forms default pathways, habits of thought that become your automatic responses to money. These pathways dictate how you perceive financial opportunities, how you handle money when you have it, and even how comfortable you feel in environments of wealth. But here's where things get truly exciting. The field of neuroplasticity has shown us that these pathways can be rewired at any age. Your brain possesses an incredible ability to form new connections based on your thoughts, beliefs, and experiences. When you understand this, you realize that your financial situation isn't fixed. It's fluid, responsive, and waiting for you to reprogram the command. Let's go deeper and start with a fundamental truth that most financial education completely misses. Money isn't what you think it is. Money isn't the paper in your wallet or the numbers in your account. At its core, money is simply a shared belief system, an idea we've collectively agreed to follow. Those dollar bills, just paper with ink. Your bank balance, just digits on a screen. What gives money its power is the meaning we attach to it, the belief that it holds value. Quantum physics has revealed that reality at its most fundamental level is not the solid, unchangeable thing we perceive with our senses. Matter itself is mostly empty space. What appears solid is actually energy vibrating at specific frequencies. The version of reality you experience, including your financial reality, depends on your thoughts and beliefs, which shape what you allow into your life. In quantum terms, you're collapsing probability waves into particles, turning potential into experience through the act of observation and expectation. This isn't pseudoscience, it's cutting-edge physics applied to your everyday life. Your consciousness is not just passively observing reality, it's actively participating in creating it. When you truly understand this, money transforms from something you chase to something you tune into, like adjusting the dial on a radio to receive a frequency that's always broadcasting. So how can we break free from our scarcity consciousness? Most of us were conditioned from childhood to see money as scarce and difficult to obtain. We were taught that only the lucky few can truly be wealthy, that there's only so much prosperity to go around, and someone else's gain must mean our loss. This zero-sum thinking creates what I call scarcity blindness, the inability to see abundance even when it surrounds you. It's like wearing sunglasses indoors and complaining about the darkness. But what if abundance is actually our natural state? What if the flow of wealth is always available to us, and we've just been blocking it with our limiting belief? I invite you to consider a radical new perspective. What if money isn't something to chase or hoard, but a tool that flows freely when you're aligned with abundance? What if financial struggle isn't a reality to overcome, but an illusion to dispel? Imagine viewing your relationship with money not from a place of fear or lack, but from a deep knowledge that abundance is your birthright, as natural as breathing. This isn't positive thinking. It's about fundamentally changing how you see yourself in relation to wealth. It's about removing the internal barriers that have been blocking your natural state of prosperity. Here's something crucial that many manifestation teachers miss. Your emotions are the true currency of creation. Your thoughts matter. Yes. Your actions matter. Certainly. But it's your emotions, your felt experience of life that truly shape your financial reality. Think about it. When you worry about money, what do you feel? Anxiety, tension, constriction? These emotions create a specific energetic signature that repels the very thing you're trying to attract. Contrast that with how you feel when you're confident about your finances. Open, expansive, peaceful, generous. This emotional state creates a completely different vibration, one that naturally attracts more abundance. The key insight here is that your emotional state around money isn't just a reaction to your financial situation, it's actually creating it. This is why simply thinking positive thoughts about money while feeling scared about your bills doesn't work. Your emotions will always overpower your thoughts in the manifestation process. So how do you change your emotional relationship with money? It starts with awareness. Notice how you feel when you check your bank account, pay bills, or make purchases. These emotional responses reveal your deepest beliefs about money. Once you're aware, you can begin to shift. Find memories or experiences where you felt abundant, regardless of the amount of money involved. Perhaps it was a moment of generosity, or a time when you had exactly what you needed. Revisit these feelings regularly until they become more familiar than scarcity. Your assumptions create your reality. Every part of your life, including your finances, reflects the assumptions you hold about yourself and what you believe you deserve. Instead of trying to force external change, fully embody the reality of already having achieved what you desire. This isn't about focusing on what you want. It's about becoming who you would be if you already had it. It's identity-based transformation at its most profound. Imagine for a moment, who would you be if you were already financially abundant? How would you move through your day as your wealthy self? How would you make decisions? How would you carry yourself? What thoughts would naturally arise? This isn't pretending or fake it till you make it. It's a profound psychological and energetic transformation that rewires your brain and aligns your energy with abundance. When you consistently assume the state of being wealthy, your subconscious mind begins to accept it as truth. And once this happens, your subconscious works tirelessly to turn that inner belief into outer reality. It influences your perceptions, your decisions, the opportunities you notice, and even how others respond to you. When you assume the identity of a wealthy person, not in an arrogant way, but in a natural, confident way, that assumption gradually solidifies into your physical experience. Developing wealth consciousness requires more than occasional visualization or sporadic affirmations. It's about creating a new relationship with the entire concept of abundance. Here's what wealth consciousness truly looks like. Number 1, seeing money as a friend, not an enemy. People with wealth consciousness view money as a positive force, a tool for good, and a means of expressing value, not something dirty, stressful, or complicated. Number 2, believing in unlimited supply. Rather than seeing wealth as a limited resource to fight over, they understand that abundance is infinite and constantly expanding. Number 3, focusing on circulation, not accumulation. They understand that money, like energy, needs to flow. They're comfortable with both receiving and giving. Number 4, valuing themselves and their contributions. They know their worth and don't apologize for receiving abundant compensation for the value they provide. Number 5, taking inspired action. They don't just think about wealth, they move toward it with confident, inspired action that feels good. Number 6, practicing gratitude for what they have. They consistently acknowledge and appreciate the abundance already present in their lives. Number 7, trusting in perfect timing. They understand that wealth has its own divine timing and don't force outcomes through desperate action. The good news is that each of these aspects of wealth consciousness can be developed with consistent practice. Your brain is remarkably adaptable, capable of creating new neural pathways at any age. Now let's explore the practical tools that can help you embody this new relationship with wealth. Number 1, the I remember when technique. This powerful practice helps you create a psychological bridge from your current state to your desired financial reality. Close your eyes and imagine yourself in the future, looking back on your current financial situation as a distant memory. Say to yourself, I remember when I used to worry about money. I remember when I would check my bank account with anxiety. I remember when financial freedom seemed impossible. Now I live with complete financial abundance. Now money flows to me easily and frequently. Now I make financial decisions from a place of security and peace. As you do this, engage all your senses. Feel the emotions of relief, confidence, and gratitude. Visualize the details of your abundant lifestyle, where you live, what you wear, how you spend your time. Hear the conversations you'd have as a financially successful person. What makes this technique so effective is that it places scarcity in the past tense and abundance in the present tense, training your subconscious to accept this new reality as current truth. Practice this daily, especially before sleep, when your subconscious mind is most receptive and the critical faculty that might reject these new ideas is less active. Number 2, belief excavation and replacement. Our financial beliefs are often hidden from our conscious awareness, operating like invisible software running in the background of our minds. To transform your financial reality, you need to bring these beliefs into the light and systematically replace them with empowering alternatives. Start by examining your current financial patterns. Are you constantly overspending? Do you avoid looking at your bank account? Do opportunities for advancement seem to pass you by? These patterns point to underlying beliefs. Ask yourself, what must I believe about money for my current situation to be true? Some common limiting beliefs include, I don't deserve to be wealthy. Money is the source of conflict and stress. Wealthy people are unethical. I'm not smart enough to manage large sums of money. If I become rich, people will only want me for my money. I have to work extremely hard for every dollar. Once you've identified these beliefs, trace them back to their origin. When did you first adopt them? Was it something your parents said, an experience in childhood, a message from society or religion? Understanding the source helps loosen the belief's grip on your psyche. You can recognize that it was formed when you had limited perspective and information. It's not an absolute truth. Then transform each limiting belief into an empowering one. I am worthy of abundance in alms. Money brings peace and possibility into my life. Wealth allows me to express my highest values. I am financially intelligent and manage money wisely. My wealth attracts genuine relationships and creates positive impact. Money flows to me easily when I'm aligned with my gift. Write down these new beliefs and read them daily. Find evidence that supports them. Gradually, your mind will accept them as your new financial operating system. Number 3, embodied wealth practices. Wealth consciousness isn't just mental, it's physical. Your body holds your financial beliefs in its posture, movements, and energy. Try these embodied practices to accelerate your transformation. 1. Wealth walking. Walk as your wealthy self would walk, with confidence, ease, and purpose. Feel abundance in every step. Your physiology directly influences your psychology. So changing how you move can change how you think and feel about money. 2. Abundant breathing. Practice deep, expansive breathing while imagining wealth flowing into your life, with each inhale and resistance, releasing with each exhale. Your breath is intimately connected to your nervous system, which governs your stress responses around money. 3. Prosperity posture. Sit or stand as if you're already financially free. Shoulders relaxed, spine tall, chest open. This posture signals to your brain that you're safe, confident, and open to receiving. 4. Wealth visualization with touch. As you visualize financial abundance, touch something that represents wealth to you, perhaps a special coin, a luxury item, or even just your wallet. This creates a somatic anchor for the feeling of abundance. Integrate these practices into your daily routine until they become second nature. Remember, you're not just changing your thoughts, you're rewiring your entire being to align with wealth. The next practical tool on our list is called Divine Partnership Protocol. Many people approach manifestation with a white-knuckle grip, trying to force outcomes through sheer will. This creates resistance that blocks the very abundance they seek. The Divine Partnership Protocol offers a more balanced approach, combining intentional creation with spiritual surrender. Start by clarifying exactly what financial abundance means to you. Be specific about amounts, time frames, and how wealth will feel and function in your life. This clarity sends a precise signal to the universe about what you're creating. Then, release your attachment to how this abundance will come to you. Trust that the universe has a broader perspective and can see opportunities invisible from your viewpoint. This doesn't mean becoming passive. It means balancing trust with inspired action, following your intuition, and taking steps that feel natural and aligned, without forcing or striving. Remember that your path to abundance may take unexpected turns. What looks like a detour or even a setback might be setting you up for an even greater opportunity. Practice this balance daily by asking, "What's my next aligned step toward abundance?" Then take that step with full presence, while releasing attachment to immediate outcomes. This divine dance between intention and surrender creates a frictionless path to wealth that feels more like flowing than fighting. The next tool you can use is called Reticular Activating System reprogramming. Your brain has a filtering system called the Reticular Activating System that determines what information from your environment reaches your conscious awareness. Right now, your RAS might be programmed to filter out wealth opportunities while highlighting evidence of financial struggle. This means you could be walking past potential gold mines every day without noticing them. By consciously reprogramming your RAS, you can train your brain to spotlight abundance wherever it exists. Start by consciously deciding to notice evidence of wealth and opportunity in your daily life. This simple intention activates your RAS to prioritize abundance-related information. Then practice the 24-hour abundance challenge. For the next day, commit to seeing everything through the lens of abundance. Every person is a potential connection to wealth. Every challenge an opportunity for growth. Every resource you already have an asset. Write down every instance of abundance you notice. The free coffee a friend bought you, the unexpected discount, the compliment that boosted your confidence, the idea that sparked during your commute. No example is too small. This exercise serves two important purposes. First, it forces your RAS to actively search for wealth-related opportunities. Second, it trains you to perceive the abundance that already surrounds you but has been filtered from your awareness. After completing this challenge, review your list. You'll likely be amazed at how many moments of abundance you've been overlooking. This realization alone can shift your perception from scarcity to abundance. Make this practice of abundance spotting a daily habit. Over time, your brain will automatically begin to highlight opportunities, connections, and resources that align with your wealth goal. The ultimate level of financial transformation happens when abundance becomes not just something you do or have, but who you are. This identity level change occurs when you fully integrate your wealthy self into your current identity, eliminating the gap between who you are now and who you'll be when financially abundant. Start by creating a detailed profile of your wealthy identity. How does this version of you think? What values guide their decisions? How do they speak about money? What habits do they maintain? How do they contribute to others? Then gradually adopt these traits, one by one, into your current life. If your wealthy self would read financial books, start reading one now. If they would network with successful people, begin building those connections today. If they would invest regularly, start with whatever amount is currently available to you. The key insight here is that you don't have to wait until you have money to become your wealthy self. In fact, becoming that person first is what attracts the wealth. An effective practice for accelerating this integration is wealth identity immersion. For 20 minutes each day, completely step into your wealthy identity. During this time, think, speak, move, and make decisions exactly as your wealthy self would. This isn't role-playing. It's identity rehearsal. You're literally training your nervous system to recognize this state as normal, creating neural pathways that will eventually become your default way of being. As you implement these practices, be aware of the common obstacles that may arise. Number 1, the worthiness trap. Many people consciously desire wealth, but subconsciously don't feel worthy of it. This creates an internal conflict that blocks manifestation. Signs you might be caught in the worthiness trap include feeling guilty when good things happen, sabotaging success when it comes, or believing you must suffer or struggle to earn money. To transcend this block, recognize that worthiness is your birthright, not something to be earned. Abundance is not a reward for good behavior. It's your natural state when you remove the barriers to it. Make a daily practice of affirming your inherent worthiness. I am worthy of abundance simply because I exist. I don't need to prove, earn, or justify my prosperity. Number 2, the visibility fear. Some people unconsciously fear that becoming wealthy will make them too visible, exposing them to criticism, judgment, or expectations from others. This fear often stems from childhood experiences where standing out led to negative consequences. It creates a subconscious resistance to wealth as a protection mechanism. To overcome this block, gradually expand your comfort zone with visibility. Share your goals with supportive people. Speak about money with increasing confidence. Imagine receiving positive attention for your success and responding to it with grace. Remind yourself, I am safe being seen in my full abundance. My success inspires others and contributes to greater good. Number 3, the identity conflict. Perhaps the most subtle block to wealth is the fear that becoming rich will change who you are, that you'll lose connection with loved ones or betray your values. This concern creates a subconscious resistance to wealth as a way of preserving your current identity and relationships. To resolve this conflict, consciously design your wealthy identity to include your core values and meaningful connections. Visualize using your wealth in ways that strengthen rather than threaten what matters most to you. Affirm, my wealth enhances who I truly am. As I prosper, I express my values more fully and create deeper connections with those I love. I believe in your capacity for abundance so deeply that I want to challenge you. Commit to these practices for the next 30 days. Not sporadically, not half-heartedly, but with the same dedication you'd give to a fitness program or learning a new skill. Immerse yourself fully in the emotions of wealth. Decode the universe's secret language of opportunity that surrounds you daily. Become the living embodiment of abundance in how you think, feel, and move through the world. During these 30 days, you'll likely experience resistance. Old beliefs will fight to maintain their position. You might feel silly acting wealthy when your circumstances haven't yet changed. You might question whether these practices really work. This resistance is normal. It's simply your old identity trying to preserve itself. When it arises, recognize it as a sign that you're making progress. Thank it for trying to protect you, then gently continue with your practices. Your wealth isn't something distant or unattainable. It's waiting for you, hidden in plain sight. All you need to do is align yourself with it. The practice is simple, but it requires consistency. Each day, choose to see yourself differently. Choose to feel differently about money. Choose actions aligned with abundance rather than scarcity. These daily choices may seem small, but they create momentum that eventually breaks through the barriers of your old financial identity. As you transform your financial reality, something remarkable happens. Your abundance creates ripples that extend far beyond your personal experience. When you free yourself from financial stress and limitation, you become more generous, not just with money, but with time, attention, and compassion. You create jobs, support causes, solve problems, and inspire others through your example. True wealth isn't just about accumulating resources. It's about expanding your capacity to contribute. As you prosper, you become a conduit for prosperity, channeling abundance to everyone you touch. This is the ultimate purpose of your financial transformation, not just to improve your life, but to become a force for good in the world. The financial transformation I'm describing isn't just about accumulating money, it's about freedom. Freedom from worry, freedom to pursue your passions, freedom to make a difference in the world. When you align yourself with abundance, you don't just change your bank account, you change your entire life. Your relationship with money reflects your relationship with life itself. As you heal one, you heal the other. As you expand your capacity to receive financially, you expand your capacity to receive all good things: love, joy, health, and purpose. The choice is yours. Will you continue living in scarcity, accepting limitation as your reality? Or will you step into the abundant future that's already yours at the level of potential? I believe in you. Now it's time for you to believe in yourself. Your journey to financial freedom starts with a single thought. I am worthy of abundance, and it flows to me naturally. Think that thought, feel it, become it, and watch as your world transforms. Remember, your wealth is not out there somewhere waiting to be found. It's within you, waiting to be expressed. The time to begin is now.
Good evening, my dear friends. Tonight I'm going to tell you something that will either liberate you completely or challenge everything you've been taught to believe about reality. The facts are lying to you. Not sometimes, not occasionally, always. What you see before you at this very moment, the empty bank account, the rejection letter, the closed door, The absence of what you desire is not truth. It's a photograph, a snapshot of a moment that has already passed, an echo of old thoughts, yesterday's beliefs, assumptions you made weeks, months, or years ago that have finally hardened into visible form. And you've been treating this photograph as if it were your living, breathing reality. You look at your bank statement and say, I am poor. You look at your body and say, I am sick. You look at your circumstances and say, this is my life. But that's like looking at last year's calendar and calling it today. The greatest error you can make, the error that keeps you trapped in repetitive cycles of the same unwanted experiences, is to look at current facts and call them truth. The truth is not what stands before your eyes. The truth is what you dare to assume in the quiet of your imagination. Tonight, I'm going to show you why the facts must be ignored, how to keep assuming despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, and why your persistent assumption is the only creative force in your life. This is not positive thinking. This is not denial. This is not fantasy. This is the mechanics of creation itself. Let me explain something fundamental about how reality works. Something that, once you grasp it, will change how you relate to every circumstance in your life. Your outer world is always one step behind your inner world. Always. By the time you can see something, touch it, measure it, experience it in the three-dimensional world, it has already been set in motion by an earlier state of consciousness. Think about it. The tree you see today began as a seed planted months or years ago. The wealth you see in someone's life began as an assumption of abundance. They held long before the money appeared. The love you witness between two people began as a feeling they harbored in their hearts before they ever met. The visible is always the effect of the invisible, never the cause. This means that whatever displeases you right now, whatever fact is screaming for your attention, demanding your emotional reaction, insisting on its reality, is not current. It's old news. It's the materialization of who you were, what you believed, what you assumed to be true at some point in the past. Your present circumstances are telling you who you were, not who you are, not who you're becoming, not who you've decided to be in consciousness. They are echoes, delayed responses, fragments of an old script you've already outgrown. And here's the critical point. If you allow yourself to react to these old facts as if they define your present and future, you will perpetuate them. When you look at the empty bank account and feel poor, you're not responding to present reality. You're creating future poverty. When you look at your diagnosis and feel sick, you're not acknowledging current truth. You're assuming continued illness. When you look at the rejection and feel unwanted, you're not processing past pain, you're seeding future rejection. The moment you emotionally engage with an unwanted fact, you give it permission to repeat itself. This is why so many people experience the same problems over and over. They think they're reacting to reality, but they're actually creating it, perpetually manifesting the very things they're reacting against. So what's the solution? Ignore the facts. Not because they're not there. Not because you're pretending they don't exist. But because they're already outdated the moment they appear, and giving them your emotional energy only ensures they'll appear again tomorrow. I want you to understand something deeply. Present conditions are not a measure of your worth, your potential, or your destiny. They are simply a reflection of what you once believed, once felt, once assumed about yourself and the world. Every circumstance you see right now is the result of old mental patterns, thoughts that have already done their work. It's the past wearing the costume of the present. Just like the shadow on the ground lags behind the person casting it, your current reality lags behind your inner state. You take a step forward, and a moment later your shadow follows. You shift your consciousness, and a moment later, days, weeks, sometimes months later, your circumstances follow. But if you keep looking at the shadow to determine where you're standing, you'll be perpetually confused. The shadow is not telling you where you are now. It's showing you where you were a moment ago. Your circumstances are the same. They're showing you where you stood in consciousness at some point in the past. So when you look at your life and see lack, limitation, struggle, or pain, don't panic. Don't despair. Don't accept it as your permanent reality. Recognize it for what it is, an old photograph that no longer represents your living truth. The danger comes when you forget this and begin to emotionally engage with what you dislike. The moment you give your current circumstances your attention, your fear, your frustration, your worry, you begin planting the seeds to experience more of the same. You're taking that old photograph and saying, yes, this is who I am, this is my reality, this is what I believe about myself. And consciousness, which is always faithful to your assumptions, says very well, if this is what you claim as yours, I will create more of it. The wise creator does not take present circumstances as an instruction for how to feel. They know that feelings are the blueprint of tomorrow, so they refuse to let the current picture dictate their mood, their thoughts, or their assumptions about themselves. Instead, they withdraw their focus from the unwanted and place it firmly on the unseen vision they have chosen. They treat the present like a letter that was mailed weeks ago. It has already been written. They know that if they want a different letter tomorrow, they must write something new today in consciousness. Here's a truth that most people never grasp. Everything begins in the unseen. Before any event unfolds, before any change is witnessed, before any dream becomes tangible, it exists in the quiet realm of thought, feeling, and assumption. The invisible always comes first. Your mind is the soil. Every assumption you hold is a seed planted deep within it. Whether you plant seeds of fear or seeds of faith, they will take root. Whether you nurture visions of lack or visions of abundance, they will grow. Whether you water thoughts of limitation or thoughts of possibility, they will multiply. The world you walk through is nothing more than the harvest of what you have been growing inside. Most people make the mistake of judging life only by what they can see. They forget that what is visible is already the end of a process, not the beginning. The tree is not born when you notice it. It began long ago as a seed beneath the surface, invisible, silent, yet very much alive and growing. Likewise, the success, the love, the health, the wealth you desire will not appear out of nowhere, surprising you with its sudden existence. It is born the moment you assume it is already yours. The moment you feel the reality of it in your inner world, the seed is planted. And once that seed is in the ground, it doesn't need your permission to grow. It doesn't need your understanding of how. It doesn't need your constant supervision. It needs your faith, your persistent assumption, your refusal to dig it up every day to check if it's growing. This is why you must be intentional with the seeds you plant. Every thought charged with emotion, every assumption you accept as truth is dropped into the fertile soil of your subconscious. And once it's planted, it grows. Whether you notice it or not, whether you remember planting it or not, whether you believe in it or not, if you spend your days replaying fears, expecting disappointment, believing in limitations, you are watering weeds. These weeds do not ask your permission to grow. They thrive in the attention you give them. They multiply in the emotional energy you feed them. Before you know it, your entire garden is overrun with the very things you didn't want. But you have the choice to plant something different. You can choose to assume that your desire is already a reality. You can choose to hold that assumption as if it were sacred, tending to it daily with your thoughts and feelings. When doubt appears, and it will appear, you refuse to feed it. You don't argue with it. You don't fight it. You simply withdraw your attention from it and return to your chosen assumption. When appearances contradict your vision, and they will contradict it for a time, you remind yourself that they are simply the remnants of old seeds, and you let them pass without emotional reaction. It is not your job to dig up the seed every day to see if it's growing. In fact, doing so only delays the process. It shows doubt, it shows lack of faith, and consciousness responds to your doubt by slowing the manifestation. Your task is to water the seed with belief, to keep the soil warm with the feeling of the wish fulfilled, to protect it from the weeds of fear and frustration, and then to wait, not anxiously, not desperately, but with the calm knowing that a seed once planted in good soil and given proper care must grow. The harvest will come in its own time. You cannot rush the unfolding any more than you can force a flower to bloom before it is ready, but you can trust the process. You can remain faithful to your assumption. You can refuse to let visible facts dictate your inner state. When you truly grasp this, when you really understand that the invisible comes first and the visible must follow, You stop living as a victim of circumstances. You stop being fooled by the outer world because you know it's only showing you yesterday's seeds. You become a conscious gardener, deliberately planting only what you wish to harvest. Now, let me tell you the most important practice you can ever learn. Living from the end. The moment you decide what you want, your task is not to wait for proof. It is not to figure out how it will happen. It is not to scan the horizon for signs that it's coming. Your task is to live from the end, as if the desire were already fulfilled, not as if it will be fulfilled someday, not hoping it might be fulfilled, not acting like it's fulfilled while secretly doubting. Living from the end means occupying the state of consciousness of the person who already has what you desire. This is where most people fail. They want the thing, but they continue to think from the state of not having it. They want wealth, but they worry about bills. They want love, but they feel lonely. They want health, but they identify as sick. They want success, but they make decisions from the consciousness of failure. You cannot think from poverty and manifest wealth. You cannot think from loneliness and manifest love. You cannot think from failure and manifest success. The state you occupy determines what you create. So if you want to experience something different, you must first become someone different in consciousness. Ask yourself, if I already had my desire, how would I think? Would the person who is already wealthy worry about this bill? No. They'd handle it calmly, knowing more money is always flowing. Would the person who is deeply loved feel desperate for attention? No, they'd feel secure, cherished, content. Would the person who is successful doubt their next move? No, they'd decide confidently, knowing they have the ability to succeed. You must think from that consciousness. Now, today, before any evidence appears, this is not about pretending or forcing yourself to believe through sheer willpower. It's about genuinely entering into a state of being where you naturally feel the truth of your assumption. How do you do this? You ask yourself, if I already had it, how would I walk? How would I speak to others? How would I spend my time? How would I treat myself? And then you live according to those answers, even if your senses try to convince you otherwise. At first, this will feel strange. Your outer reality will still carry the residue of the old state. The bank account will still show the same number. The relationship status will still be the same. The body will still show the same symptoms. But do not be discouraged. Outer conditions are slow to catch up. They are the shadow, not the substance. The substance is the inner state you hold unwaveringly. Your mind is the director. The world is the stage. The actors, the props, the scenes, all of it responds to the script you're writing in consciousness. The moment you accept the role inwardly, the moment you genuinely occupy the state of having your desire, the scene begins to change outwardly. Not instantly, not magically, but inevitably. Do not wait for circumstances to give you permission to feel successful, happy, loved, or abundant. This is the trap. Most people wait for the money before they feel wealthy. They wait for the person before they feel loved. They wait for the success before they feel confident. But this is backwards. You must feel it first. The feeling is the cause. The circumstance is the effect. When you live from that inner certainty, when you walk through your day as the person who already has what they desire, the world will mirror it back to you. Opportunities will arise that you couldn't have predicted. People will respond to you differently. Events will arrange themselves in your favor, not because you forced them, not because you manipulated them, but because you aligned with the version of you who already lives in that reality. The key is persistence. You cannot step into the role for an hour during meditation and then return to doubt for the rest of the day. You must hold the state as naturally as you hold your own name. Carry it in your posture, your words, your inner dialogue, your decisions, your reactions. If you fall into old patterns, and you will at first gently return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Don't judge yourself. Don't panic. Just return. Again and again and again. When you assume as if it's done, you collapse the gap between desire and experience. You are no longer someone trying to get there. You are someone who is already there in consciousness. And consciousness being the only reality, you are already there in the only place that matters. The three-dimensional world is simply catching up to where you already stand. The evidence will appear, but only after you've stopped looking for it and started living from it. There will always be voices, some from others, some from within, that try to tell you what is possible and what is not. They will measure your potential by your current situation, by your past failures, by statistics, by probability, by their own limited vision. If you allow these voices to dictate your thinking, you'll find yourself trapped in the same reality they believe in. The truth is, those outer opinions and visible circumstances are powerless unless you give them power through your attention and acceptance. The outer voice often comes disguised as common sense, practical advice, or just being realistic. Your friends will say, be reasonable, look at the facts. You don't have the money, the connections, the qualifications. Your family will say, we just don't want you to get your hopes up. We're trying to protect you. Society will say, people like you don't get those kinds of opportunities. But what they're really doing is binding you to the known and the visible, keeping you from stepping into the unseen where your desire is already alive. If you want to create something new, you must learn to silence these outer voices, not by arguing with them, not by trying to convince them, not by defending your vision. You silence them by withdrawing your mental and emotional energy from their words. Let them speak. Let them doubt. Let them tell you it's impossible. And then in the quiet of your own consciousness, return to your assumption. Your senses too will try to persuade you. They are perhaps even more convincing than other people's voices. They will present you with facts, numbers, images that seem immovable. They will whisper, look, nothing has changed. This is your reality. Wake up. But your senses are reporters of the past, not prophets of the future. They can only confirm what has already been created through your previous states of mind. If what you see and hear contradicts your desire, remind yourself that it is only the fading echo of old beliefs, old assumptions, old states. It's yesterday's news being delivered today, and you don't base your future on yesterday's news. This is why inner discipline is so important. You must become the guardian of your own mind. You must protect your assumption like a precious seed. When doubt tries to speak, you gently turn your attention back to the vision you've chosen. When fear presents its case, and it will present compelling evidence, you refuse to sit in its courtroom. When people insist that you are foolish for believing in what they cannot see, you silently bless them and return to your inner knowing. The power to manifest is not found in convincing the world to support your dream. It is found in convincing yourself so completely that the world has no choice but to rearrange itself accordingly. Every moment you allow yourself to be swayed by the outer world, you water the seeds of doubt. But every moment you hold fast to your chosen assumption, you strengthen the roots of your new reality. There will be times when the silence feels lonely, when it seems easier to agree with the loudest voice, when it seems wiser to surrender to the facts. But remember, every great change begins in solitude, in the quiet place where belief is nurtured without interference. Moses went to the mountain alone. Jesus went to the wilderness alone. Every visionary, every creator, every person who has ever manifested something that others said was impossible, they all had to spend time alone with their vision, protecting it from the voices of doubt. So guard that place. Protect it. Keep it free from the weeds of doubt and fear. Ignore the doubters. Ignore the circumstances. Ignore even the reports of your own senses if they disagree with your desire. The only voice that matters is the one within you that says it is done. Let me bring this all together now. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are not subject to facts. You are not powerless before the world. You are the creator of your experience through the power of assumption. Every condition in your life, wanted or unwanted, exists because of an assumption you held. The unwanted conditions exist because you unconsciously assumed them. You reacted to old facts. You believed what you saw. You accepted limitations as truth. But the wanted conditions, the ones you're now claiming, will exist because you consciously assume them. You ignore current facts. You believe in the unseen. You accept your desire as already done. Your role is not to chase, beg, manipulate or plead. Your role is to choose, believe, and remain. Choose the state you wish to occupy. Believe it is already yours in consciousness. Remain faithful to that belief, regardless of what appears. The inner must be honored before the outer can reflect it. And the moment you live from your chosen state, the moment you truly occupy it in consciousness, the rest becomes inevitable. The world has no choice but to catch up. Tonight I want you to make a decision. Look at the most unwanted fact in your life right now. The one that seems most solid, most real, most unchangeable. The empty bank account, the rejection, the closed door, whatever it is, and recognize it for what it truly is. An old photograph. Yesterday's assumption made visible. It is not your current truth. It is not your destiny. It is not unchangeable. It is simply the materialization of who you were in consciousness at some point in the past. And now you are going to assume something different. Choose what you want instead. Decide on your desired end. And then, starting tonight, ignore the old fact completely. Don't fight it. Don't hate it. Don't fear it. Just stop giving it your emotional energy. Instead, assume your desire is already fulfilled. Feel what it feels like to have it. Live from that state. When the old fact tries to speak, when it waves its hands and demands your attention, smile at it gently and return to your assumption. You are old news. I have chosen a new reality, and I will persist in that reality until you fade away and it takes your place. Do this for 30 days, not half-heartedly. Fully committed. 30 days of ignoring facts and keeping your assumption. 30 days of living from the end regardless of what your senses report. 30 days of persisting through every contradiction. And watch what happens. Watch as the old facts begin to weaken. Watch as new circumstances start to form. Watch as the world slowly, then suddenly, conforms to your persistent assumption. This is your power. This is the law. This is how you create. I end with this. If you truly ignore the facts and keep assuming, if you remain faithful to your chosen state despite all evidence to the contrary, your assumption will harden into fact. Not because you deserve it, not because you earned it, not because you got lucky, but because this is law. Consciousness creates circumstances. Assumptions become facts. The inner always externalizes. Stay loyal to your vision. Ignore what contradicts it. And trust that what you have claimed within is already growing in the invisible, preparing to break through into the visible. The world will catch up. It always does. So ignore the facts, keep assuming. Thank you, and good evening. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and I'll see you in the next video.
Welcome to the beginning of your transformation. As you listen these words, something powerful is already happening within you. A shift in perception that will change everything. I want to ask you something important. Who would you be if wealth was already yours? How would you walk through the world? How would you speak to others and to yourself? What thoughts would fill your mind as you opened your eyes each morning, knowing that abundance flows to you effortlessly? I remember asking myself these questions years ago while sitting at my kitchen table. Bills spread out before me, that familiar knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. The gap between where I was and where I wanted to be seemed impossibly wide. Perhaps you felt that too. That disconnect between your financial reality and your deepest desires. But that day, something shifted. I realized I'd been approaching everything backward. I was waiting for my circumstances to change before I would change how I felt, how I thought, and how I moved through the world. That realization transformed everything for me, and it can do the same for you. I'm not asking you to pretend. I'm asking you to recognize a profound truth that changed my life. Wealth begins within. Here's what I discovered on my own journey. The world doesn't give you what you want. It gives you who you are. Most people live their entire lives waiting for external circumstances to determine their internal state. They say, when I have more money, then I'll feel secure. When I achieve success, then I'll feel confident. When my problems disappear, then I'll feel peace. But that's not how life works. You don't need to wait for your bank account to change before you change how you feel about money. The secret, the real, life-changing secret, is this. You must believe before you see. The evidence appears only after you've accepted abundance as your reality. I spent years waiting for proof before I would believe. I checked my accounts obsessively, hoping to see growth that would justify feeling good about my financial situation. Each time the numbers didn't meet my expectations, I'd spiral into worry and doubt, unconsciously reinforcing my connection to lack. Then I encountered a principle that flipped everything on its head. Your outer world is nothing more than a reflection of your inner state. Think about that. Everything you see, touch, and experience began first as a thought, a feeling, an assumption in your mind. Your current financial situation isn't random. It's the physical manifestation of your dominant beliefs about money, success, and your worthiness to receive. The moment I flipped that script and began living as if I already had everything I needed, feeling the emotions of wealth, thinking the thoughts of abundance, carrying myself with the confidence of someone financially free, my entire reality began to shift. Opportunities emerged that I couldn't have planned. Resources appeared from unexpected sources. Doors opened that I didn't even know existed. Not because I was lucky, not because I was special, but because I changed from the inside out. You need to step into your wealthy self right now. And here's how. Look at how wealthy people move through life. They don't question whether opportunity will find them. They expect it. They don't worry about resources. They know resources will come. They carry an unshakable confidence, not because they have money, but because they embody wealth as a state of being. I used to watch successful people and think their confidence came from their achievements. Now I understand their achievements came from their confidence rooted in how they saw themselves, not in their circumstances. This isn't about arrogance. It's about alignment. When you align your thoughts, feelings, and actions with abundance rather than scarcity, you become a different person. And when you become different, your life becomes different too. I remember attending a business conference years ago, before my financial breakthrough. I felt out of place, intimidated by people who seemed so much more successful than me. I hunched my shoulders, spoke timidly, and constantly apologized for taking up space. A mentor pulled me aside and said something I'll never forget. You're acting like someone who doesn't belong here. But wealth isn't about what's in your wallet, it's about what's in your mind. Stand tall, speak clearly. You belong in any room you enter. That day, I made a conscious decision to step into my wealthy self, not the self I thought I needed to become someday, but the wealthy self that was already within me, waiting to be expressed. So I'm asking you to do something radical. Assume the state of wealth right now, not tomorrow, not when circumstances change. Now, begin moving through your day as if abundance is your natural state. Make decisions from a place of sufficiency rather than lack. Treat yourself with the care and respect that a wealthy person would. Invest in your growth as someone who expects return. This shift may feel uncomfortable at first. Your logical mind will argue, pointing to your current circumstances as evidence that you're pretending. But remember, circumstances don't create your state. Your state creates your circumstance. So what exactly is wealth? Is it a number in your bank account? Is it properties and possessions? Is it the freedom to do what you want, when you want? I've come to understand that real wealth is a psychology before it's a reality. It's a way of perceiving yourself and the world around you. The wealthy mind sees possibilities where others see problems. It sees resources where others see restrictions. It sees abundance where others see scarcity. I used to have what I now call broke thinking. I would walk into a store and immediately look at price tags, calculating what I couldn't afford. I would see opportunities and focus on all the reasons they wouldn't work out for me. I would dwell on past financial mistakes, letting them define my identity and limit my future. This psychology of lack kept me trapped in a reality that matched it perfectly. Transforming my psychology of wealth meant, instead of asking, "Can I afford this?" I began asking, "How can I afford this?" Instead of seeing myself as someone who struggled with money, I began seeing myself as someone who was learning to master money. Instead of focusing on what was going wrong financially, I directed my attention to what was going right. Instead of comparing myself to those who had more, I practiced gratitude for the abundance already present in my life. This psychological shift didn't happen overnight. It required consistent awareness, catching myself when I slipped into old patterns of thought. It meant surrounding myself with books, podcasts, and people who reinforced a wealthy mindset. It meant practicing new thought patterns until they became natural. But with time and persistence, my psychology transformed, and as it did, my external reality had no choice but to follow. There's a world of difference between wishing for wealth and knowing it's already yours. Wishing keeps you stuck in wanting. It's like standing outside a door, knocking and hoping someone lets you in. But when you live from the end, when you mentally and emotionally step into the reality where your desire is fulfilled, you're no longer outside looking in. You're already home. I remember clearly the day this clicked for me. I was facing bills I wasn't sure how to pay, yet I made a decision. I am financially free. This is temporary, but my wealth is permanent. I stopped seeing myself as someone struggling to become wealthy and started seeing myself as someone wealthy navigating a temporary situation. That subtle shift changed everything, not because it magically deposited money in my account, but because it changed how I responded to opportunities, how I spoke about money, and how I carried myself in the world. When a new business prospect came my way, I didn't approach it from desperation. I approached it with the calm assurance of someone who was already successful, who could take it or leave it. This energy was magnetic, drawing more opportunities my way. When unexpected expenses arose, I didn't panic, as I once would have. I met them with the certainty that resources would come, and they always did, often in ways I couldn't have anticipated. Living from the end means making decisions based on where you're going, not where you've been. Speaking about your finances as you want them to be, not as they currently appear. Feeling the emotions of financial freedom before the external evidence arrives. Taking actions aligned with the wealthy version of yourself, not the struggling version. This isn't about denial or delusion. It's about understanding that your current circumstances are the result of past thinking, and your future circumstances will be determined by how you choose to think and feel right now. So how do feelings become things? Your emotions aren't just reactions, they're creative forces. When you consistently feel wealthy, grateful, and secure, you vibrate at a frequency that attracts matching experiences. I used to dismiss this idea as too mystical, too intangible. But then I began to observe how my emotional states were directly connected to my experiences. When I felt anxious about money, I'd make impulsive decisions that led to more financial stress. When I felt resentful about bills, more unexpected expenses would appear. When I felt unworthy of wealth, opportunities would come, but I'd find ways to sabotage them. Most people have it backward. They wait to feel abundant until they see abundance. They wait to feel confident until they achieve success. But that's not how this works. The universe responds not to what you want, but to what you are, and what you are is determined largely by how you feel on a consistent basis. You must generate the feeling first. Wake up and consciously choose to feel financially secure before checking your accounts. Walk into meetings feeling valuable before anyone acknowledges your worth. Make decisions from a place of abundance even when facing temporary limitations. One of the biggest blocks I faced on my journey was obsessing over how my financial breakthrough would come. I wanted a roadmap, a guarantee, a step-by-step plan. I'd lie awake at night trying to calculate exactly how much I needed to earn, which opportunities to pursue, what investments might pay off fastest. My mind spun with endless scenarios and possibilities, each one leaving me more anxious than the last. But here's what I learned. Your job isn't to figure out how, your job is to hold the vision and trust the process. Think about a farmer planting seeds. He doesn't dig them up every day to check their progress. He doesn't stand over them demanding they grow faster. He plants with confidence, nurtures consistently, and trusts the harvest will come. The how isn't your responsibility. The universe has infinite channels through which abundance can flow to you, many more creative and wonderful than you could possibly imagine. Your task is simply to keep your vision clear and your vibration high. I remember the turning point came when I finally surrendered my need to control. I had been pursuing a particular business opportunity that I was convinced was my path to wealth. When it fell through, I was devastated, until a seemingly random conversation 3 days later led to an even better opportunity that I couldn't have planned if I tried. That experience taught me something invaluable. The path to your desires rarely unfolds the way you think it will. When you try to micromanage the process, you actually limit the ways abundance can reach you. Instead, focus on clarity about what you want, not the specific path to get there. Release your attachment to timelines and let things unfold in divine timing. Stay open to unexpected opportunities, even if they don't match your original plan. Trust that if a particular door closes, it's because a better one is about to open. When you release your grip on the how, you allow the universe to surprise you with its creativity and generosity. You also need to learn to speak the language of wealth. Your words shape your reality. Every time you say, "I can't afford that," or "money is so hard to come by," you're writing that story into existence. I had to completely transform my vocabulary around money. Instead of saying, "I can't afford it," I began saying, "I'm choosing to invest my money elsewhere right now." Instead of complaining about bills, I practiced gratitude for the services they represented. A wealthy person doesn't speak the language of lack. They don't constantly talk about what they can't do or can't have. They speak with assurance, make decisions with clarity, and approach life with the certainty that they'll always have what they need. I made a conscious effort to eliminate phrases like, "I'm broke, I can't afford that," "Money doesn't grow on trees," "I'll never get out of debt," "Rich people are just lucky," and replace them with, "I'm making strategic financial choices. That's not a priority for me right now. Money flows to me through multiple channels. I'm becoming more financially free every day. Wealth is available to anyone who aligns with it." At first, these new phrases felt foreign, even false. But I persisted, knowing that my words weren't just describing my reality. They were creating it. Within weeks, I noticed subtle shifts. I felt more empowered around money decisions. I stopped feeling victimized by my financial situation. I began to see opportunities where before I had only seen obstacles. Your words aren't just describing your reality, they're creating it. Choose them wisely. Also, carry yourself with confidence. How do you walk into a room? How do you look at a price tag? How do you make decisions? A wealthy person moves with quiet confidence, not arrogance, confidence. They know their value. They trust their judgment. They approach opportunities with excitement rather than fear. I remember consciously changing how I carried myself, standing taller, making decisions more decisively, treating myself with the care and respect I'd give to someone I deeply valued. These weren't just physical changes, they were expressions of a fundamental shift in how I saw myself. Your physiology affects your psychology. When you carry yourself like the wealthy person you already are inside, you strengthen that identity and make it more real. I began a practice of wealth embodiment that dramatically accelerated my transformation. I paid attention to my posture, standing tall with my shoulders back. I made eye contact and spoke clearly, without undermining myself. I dressed in a way that made me feel successful, even when no one was watching. I made decisions promptly rather than hesitating from fear. I treated myself to small luxuries that reinforced my worth. One particularly powerful practice was walking into high-end stores or luxury hotels, places I once felt I didn't belong, and simply allowing myself to be there comfortably, without apology or explanation. At first it felt like acting, but with consistency it became natural. The more I embodied wealth physically, the more my mindset shifted to match. This isn't about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about aligning your physical expression with the wealthy self that already exists within you. One often overlooked aspect of wealth creation is the influence of your social circle. The people you spend time with shape your beliefs, expectations, and behaviors around money more than you might realize. I had to make some difficult but necessary changes in who I allowed to influence my financial mindset. Some friends consistently spoke about money with fear and limitation. Some family members reinforced the belief that wealth was for other people, not us. Some colleagues normalized financial struggle as just the way things are. Surrounding yourself with wealth consciousness means seeking mentors who have achieved the financial freedom you desire, reading books by those who understand the principles of abundance, joining communities where prosperity thinking is the norm, limiting exposure to chronic complainers and scarcity thinkers, finding friends who support your vision rather than questioning it. This doesn't mean abandoning everyone who isn't wealthy. It means being intentional about whose financial opinions you internalize and whose money mindset you allow to influence yours. When I began spending time with entrepreneurs who talked about money confidently, who saw opportunities everywhere, who expected success rather than bracing for failure, my own thinking began to shift by osmosis. Your wealth consciousness is either being elevated or diminished by the company you keep. Choose wisely. Persistence is key, so you must persist until it manifests. This might be the most important part of your journey. There will be days when your old doubts creep back in. There will be moments when circumstances seem to contradict your vision. There will be people who question your confidence when they can't see what you see. These are tests not of whether your desire is possible, but of whether you'll remain faithful to your vision when appearances suggest otherwise. I've faced those moments. I've had days when I wondered if I was fooling myself. I've had financial setbacks that tempted me to abandon my belief in abundance. I've had well-meaning friends suggest I was being unrealistic, but I made a decision to stand firm, to keep embodying wealth regardless of what my circumstances were showing me. I remember one particularly challenging period when several expected payments didn't come through, and I was facing some significant expenses. The old me would have panicked, seen it as confirmation that financial stability was always beyond my reach. Instead, I doubled down on my wealth practices. I increased my visualization time. I became even more vigilant about my self-talk. I acted with even more confidence and certainty. I refused to let temporary circumstances dictate my permanent identity. Within weeks, not only did the delayed payments arrive, but new opportunities came that more than compensated for the temporary shortfall. And here's what I discovered. When you refuse to waver in your assumption, when you persist in the feeling of already having what you desire, reality has no choice but to reshape itself around your conviction. Persistence means maintaining your wealth consciousness even when your bank account temporarily disagrees. Continuing to speak, think, and act wealthy even when no one else sees your vision. Treating financial setbacks as temporary detours, not permanent destinations. Staying faithful to your assumption until it hardens into physical fact. The universe doesn't reward wishful thinking or sporadic effort. It responds to unwavering conviction maintained long enough to become your dominant vibration. Remember this. What you see around you today is the result of past thinking. It has no power to determine your future unless you give it that power. Your turning point comes the moment you decide that your inner vision is more real than your outer circumstances. And you live from that place without apology or doubt. For me, that turning point wasn't dramatic. It wasn't marked by sudden wealth or overnight success. It was simply the quiet but firm decision that I would no longer be defined by my financial past or present circumstances. I decided that my true identity was abundant, prosperous, and wealthy, and I would live from that truth regardless of temporary appearances. From that day forward, I stopped seeking evidence before believing. I stopped allowing bank statements to determine my worth. I stopped waiting for permission to feel the way a wealthy person feels. Instead, I claimed my prosperity consciousness as my birthright. I owned it fully, lived it consistently, and trusted the manifestation process completely. I'm not asking you to ignore practical actions. Take those steps. Work diligently. Seize opportunity, but do it all from the consciousness of one who already has what they desire, not as someone desperately trying to get something they lack. The practical actions you take from a state of abundance have a completely different energy and therefore different results than the same actions taken from a state of lack. Practice gratitude for what is and what's coming. Gratitude is the highest frequency you can emit. It's impossible to feel truly grateful and fearful at the same time. When you practice genuine gratitude, you automatically shift into an abundance mindset. I developed a two-part gratitude practice that accelerated my financial transformation. First, I practiced radical gratitude for my current reality, even the parts that seemed challenging. I gave thanks for the bills because they represented services that enhanced my life. I appreciated the job I wanted to leave because it was funding my transition. I found gratitude for past financial mistakes because they taught me valuable lessons. Second, I practiced gratitude for what was on its way to me. I would close my eyes and feel deeply thankful for the wealth that was already mine in consciousness, already making its way into my physical experience. This dual approach to gratitude kept me rooted in abundance rather than lack. It helped me see that I was already wealthy in countless ways and that even greater prosperity was unfolding for me. Try this practice. Each morning, list 5 aspects of your current financial situation you can genuinely appreciate. Each evening, express gratitude for 5 aspects of the wealth that's currently manifesting for you. This simple discipline trains your mind to recognize abundance rather than scarcity, accelerating your financial transformation. While your mental and emotional alignment is the foundation of wealth creation, it must be paired with inspired action for full manifestation. The key word here is inspired. There's a world of difference between forced action fueled by fear and inspired action flowing from alignment. When you're aligned with wealth consciousness, you'll feel naturally drawn to certain opportunities, ideas, or pathways. These nudges from your intuition are your internal guidance system pointing you toward your prosperity. I used to exhaust myself with endless hustle, trying to force money to come through sheer effort. Now I understand that aligned action feels different. It feels exciting rather than draining. It feels natural rather than forced. And most importantly, it yields results far beyond the effort invested. Pay attention to the ideas that come when you're in a state of abundance. Notice the opportunities that excite you. Follow the breadcrumbs of inspiration, taking one aligned step at a time. Remember that inspired action isn't always big or dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as making that phone call you've been putting off, organizing your finances, or investing in yourself in some meaningful way. What matters isn't the size of the action, but the consciousness behind it. Are you acting from fear and lack, or from confidence and abundance? The external action might look identical, but the energy behind it, and therefore the results it produces, will be worlds apart. Your wealth is waiting. Everything you seek, the financial freedom, the peace of mind, the ability to live generously and joyfully, it's already within you. It exists right now as a potential reality, waiting for you to step into it. Your imagination isn't fantasy, it's the preview of coming attractions. When you use it deliberately to feel the reality you desire, you align with that reality and draw it into your experience. I know this path isn't always easy. There will be moments when your logical mind argues with your vision. There will be days when your outer circumstances seem to contradict what you're creating internally. But I also know this. If you persist in your wealth consciousness, if you refuse to be defined by temporary conditions, your external reality must eventually conform to your inner state. This is the promise and the process that transformed my life, and it will transform yours too if you allow it. Sip as if you're already wealthy. Think as if abundance is already yours. Feel the emotions of financial freedom now, and watch as your outer world reshapes itself to match the wealth you've already claimed within. This isn't theory. This isn't wishful thinking. This is transformation at the most fundamental level, and it begins the moment you decide it's true for you. Your wealth is waiting, not in some distant future, but right now, in the consciousness you choose to embody today. Step into it now, claim it as yours, and never look back. External world. From a neuroscientific perspective, the brain does not distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. When you visualize a goal with strong emotions, your brain registers it as a real experience, reinforcing neural pathways that make that reality more likely to manifest. This is why visualization and affirmations are powerful when done correctly. They rewire your brain to accept your desires as reality. Many confuse the law of attraction with Neville Goddard's law of assumption. The law of attraction focuses on attracting what you desire, often making it feel like something outside of you. The law of assumption, however, states that what you assume to be true becomes your reality. Instead of hoping for a better future, you assume the feeling of already having it, and reality conforms to that belief. Despite its simplicity, most people struggle with manifestation due to doubt, resistance, and subconscious limiting beliefs. If you deeply believe you are unworthy of wealth, love, or success, your subconscious will reject any efforts to manifest them. The key is to override these limitations by consistently aligning your thoughts, emotions, and assumptions with your desired reality. The most crucial principle of manifestation is feeling. Your subconscious mind does not respond to mere words, it responds to the emotions behind them. You can repeat affirmations all day, but if deep inside you feel lack, doubt, or fear, your subconscious will continue to manifest those feelings into your reality. This is why feeling is the secret to successful manifestation. To bring your desires into reality, you must embody the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This means you do not wait for external circumstances to change, you assume it has already happened. If you want wealth, feel abundant now. If you desire love, feel loved and cherished in the present moment. This internal shift signals to the subconscious that the manifestation is real, aligning your thoughts and emotions with the desired outcome. However, emotional alignment is key. If you affirm wealth but constantly feel financial struggle, your subconscious will reject the affirmation because it contradicts your dominant emotion. Instead of merely stating, I am rich, you must feel the emotions of financial freedom, like excitement, gratitude, and confidence. The biggest mistake in manifestation and your imagination takes center stage, making it the perfect time to impress your desires onto your subconscious. To enter states, find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Sit or lie down in a comfortable position. Close your eyes, take slow, deep breaths, and allow your body to loosen completely. Feel every muscle relax as you sink into a calm, peaceful state. As you do this, let go of any tension or distractions. Focus only on the final result. For example, if you want financial abundance, don't imagine working hard or getting a paycheck. Instead, visualize checking your bank account and seeing your desired balance or celebrating financial success with a loved one. To make the scene more powerful, engage all five senses. Sight, what do you see? A congratulatory message, a beautiful home, a joyful event. Sound, what do you hear? Laughter, applause, someone congratulating you. Touch, how does it feel? Holding a money filled wallet, feeling a partner's embrace. Smell, are the specific sense. Fresh flowers, new car, leather, home cooked meals. Emotion, most importantly, what emotions do you feel? Gratitude, excitement, peace. The subconscious only recognizes what feels real, so focus on experiencing joy, relief, and certainty in your visualization. Repeat this scene in your mind until it feels like a memory rather than a wish. When done correctly, your subconscious will accept it as truth, and reality will align to reflect it. The most crucial step in manifestation is to feel as if your desire is already yours. Your subconscious does not differentiate between reality and imagination, it only reacts to the emotions you generate. If you can fully embody the feeling of your wish fulfilled, your reality must shift to match that assumption. Ask yourself, how would I feel if this were already true? If you had your dream job, how would you wake up in the morning? If you were financially abundant, how would you walk, talk, and think? If you were in a loving relationship, how much joy and warmth would you feel daily? Once you identify these emotions, generate them within yourself now. Feel the joy, excitement, gratitude, and relief as if your wish has already come to life. Imagine the happiness of achieving your goal, the confidence that comes with success, and the security of having everything you desire. Let these feelings take over your entire being. Allow yourself to smile, breathe deeply, and truly experience the fulfillment of your desire. The longer you sustain this feeling, the stronger the impression on your subconscious mind. Your emotions act as a magnet, attracting circumstances that align with them. This is where most people fail. They visualize without feeling. But feeling is the secret. When you truly believe, check if it's growing. Don't constantly logical thinking, it handles the how for you. Your only job is to assume the end result is already achieved. Trust that the universe will align everything in perfect timing. 3. Overcomplicating visualization. You don't need to create long, detailed visualizations. Keep it simple and emotionally impactful. A short, vivid scene, 5 to 10 seconds, filled with strong emotions, is far more effective than an elaborate movie like visualization. 4. Forcing results. Trying too hard creates resistance. Straining to manifest something pushes it away. Instead, allow your manifestation to unfold naturally by maintaining a relaxed belief in its certainty. Trust, feel, and let go. This is the fastest way to manifest your desires. Manifestation is not just a theory, it has worked for countless people in incredible ways. When you fully believe, assume, and feel your desire is real, results can happen faster than you ever imagined. Here are 3 real life stories of instant manifestation that prove the power of assumption. 1. Unexpected financial windfall. A man struggling with finances decided to test the power of manifestation. Every night before bed, he visualized himself receiving money effortlessly. He didn't worry about how it would happen, he simply imagined himself holding a check, feeling deep gratitude and excitement. Within a few days, he unexpectedly received a bonus at work and a refund he had forgotten about. His financial situation improved almost overnight, showing that money can flow in unexpected ways when you assume abundance. 2. Dream job in record time. A woman seeking her dream job applied the 4-minute manifestation method. She imagined herself celebrating her success, shaking hands with her new boss, and feeling immense joy. She focused only on the end result, not the process. Just 1 week later, she received an unexpected job offer for a position even better than she had imagined. 3. Manifesting love. Another individual who longed for a meaningful relationship stopped searching and instead assumed the feeling of already being loved. They visualized happy moments, felt deep gratitude, and lived as if their perfect partner was already present. Within weeks, they met someone who matched their vision perfectly. These stories prove that manifestation works quickly when you assume, feel, and let go. Your desired reality is already waiting, believe, and it will appear. While the 4-minute manifestation method is powerful on its own, you can accelerate your results by incorporating take weeks. The Believe in abundance, abundance will flow effortlessly. This is not wishful thinking, it is how the subconscious mind operates. What you assume to be true becomes your experience. The 4-minute manifestation technique is a simple yet powerful tool to help you shift your assumptions quickly and effectively. It requires no effort, no struggle, just belief, repetition, and trust. By looping a short scene in your mind, embodying the feeling of fulfillment, and then letting go with confidence, you align yourself with your desired reality. Your subconscious is limitless. It holds the power to shape your dream life, but it will only create what you consistently believe and feel. The time to start is now. Assume your desires are already yours. Trust the process and watch as your world transforms. The life you dream of is not far away. It's waiting for you to claim it. Manifest with certainty, and soon your imagination will become your reality. And that's it. Just 4 minutes a day can completely shift your reality and bring your desires to life. Remember, manifestation isn't about forcing things to happen, it's about assuming they already have. When you believe, feel, and let go, the universe has no choice but to align with your assumption. Now, I want to hear from you. Comment below. What are you manifesting right now? Is it financial freedom, love, success, or something else? Type it as if it's already yours. Example, I am living my dream life. When you affirm it in the comments, you're reinforcing your belief. And who knows? You might just see it manifest sooner than you think. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful manifestation techniques. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Your dream life is already waiting for you. It's time to claim it.
Good evening, my cherished friends. Tonight I want to share with you the one quality, the single most important feeling that separates those who successfully manifest their desires from those who struggle endlessly despite knowing all the techniques, all the methods, all the so-called secrets. That quality is naturalness. Not excitement, not desperation, not even faith in the traditional sense. Naturalness. When I speak of naturalness, I'm referring to that quality of feeling completely normal about your desire being fulfilled. It's the difference between a man who has just won the lottery, jumping, screaming, unable to believe his good fortune, and a man who has been wealthy for 20 years, who handles prosperity with the same ease you handle breathing. One consciousness shouts, "Can you believe this is happening to me?" The other consciousness whispers, "Of course, this is who I am." The first man is experiencing his desire. The second man is being his desire. And it's the second man whose wealth will remain and multiply, while the first man's winnings will likely slip through his fingers within a few years. Why? Because naturalness is the signature of permanence. What feels natural to you must manifest and must remain. What feels unnatural, miraculous, or surprising will slip away as soon as the excitement fades. I learned this principle many years ago through a simple observation. I watched how people related to different aspects of their lives, and I noticed something fascinating. Everyone has some area of their life where they feel completely natural, completely at ease. For some it's their health, for others it's their relationships. For still others it's their creativity or intelligence. Whatever area feels natural to you, where you don't question it, don't worry about it, don't feel you need to prove it, that area remains stable in your life. You don't wake up each morning wondering if you'll still be intelligent. You don't check throughout the day to make sure you're still creative. You simply are these things, and because you are them naturally, they persist effortlessly. But notice the areas of your life where you struggle, where things feel like constant effort, where you experience lack or limitation. In these areas you lack naturalness. You're trying to be something rather than naturally being it. You're working to have something rather than naturally having it. A woman once approached me after a lecture in Los Angeles. She was impeccably dressed, clearly well educated, articulate. "Mr. Goddard," she said, I can manifest small things easily. Parking spaces, chance encounters, minor synchronicities. But the big things, the things I really want, a truly fulfilling relationship, financial freedom, my dream career, these elude me no matter how much I imagine them. Why? I studied her for a moment, then asked a simple question. When you imagine a parking space, how do you feel? She looked confused by the question. I don't know, I expect it to be there, it's no big deal. Exactly, I said. And when you imagine your dream relationship or financial freedom, her entire demeanor changed. Her eyes widened, her breath quickened slightly. I feel excited, she said, sometimes almost too excited to contain it. My heart races. I think this would be so amazing. This would change everything. I studied her for a moment, then asked a simple question. When you imagine a parking space, how do you feel? She looked confused by the question. I don't know. I expect it to be there. It's no big deal. Exactly, I said. And when you imagine your dream relationship or financial freedom, her entire demeanor changed. Her eyes widened, her breath quickened slightly. I feel excited, she said, sometimes almost too excited to contain it. My heart races. I think this would be so amazing. This would change everything. There, I told her, is your answer. You manifest parking spaces because they feel natural to you. You don't manifest your larger desires because they feel unnatural, extraordinary, almost unbelievable. Your excitement itself betrays your disbelief. She was silent for a long moment. Are you saying I shouldn't be excited about my desires? I'm saying excitement is fine when your desire first appears to you. But if you're still excited about it after weeks or months of imagining it, you haven't made it natural yet. You're still treating it as something special, something outside your normal experience, something that would be amazing if it happened. And that very attitude keeps it from happening. This conversation reveals one of the most misunderstood aspects of manifestation. People think passion, excitement, and intense emotion are the keys to manifesting. They work themselves into ecstatic states, they feel overwhelming desire, they generate tremendous emotional intensity. And then they wonder why their desires don't manifest. The truth is this: intense emotion can help you identify what you want, but naturalness is what allows you to have it. Excitement says, this would be wonderful if it happened. Naturalness says, of course this is mine. What else would it be? Let me illustrate this with a story that demonstrates the power of naturalness perfectly. A young man came to study with me, desperate to become a successful writer. He had talent, certainly. He had dedication. He wrote every day, imagined his success every night, visualized his name on bestseller lists, felt the joy of critical acclaim. But month after month, year after year, rejection letters piled up. His work was never quite good enough. Publishers weren't interested. Agents didn't respond. One day, in frustration, he said to me, Neville, I've done everything you teach. I imagine my success constantly. I feel it deeply. Why doesn't it manifest? Tell me, I said. How does a successful writer feel to you? His eyes lit up. Accomplished, validated, finally proven. It would feel like I'd made it, like all my struggles were worth it, like I stopped him. That's your problem right there. You're imagining being a successful writer as something that would prove you, validate you, elevate you. To you, being a successful writer is special, extraordinary, a transformation of who you currently are. But it would be, he protested. And that's why it isn't, I replied. Tell me, how do you feel about your ability to read? He looked puzzled. I don't understand. I read. It's natural. I've been reading since I was a child. Exactly. You don't imagine being able to read as special or extraordinary. You don't wake up excited that you can read. You don't feel you need to prove you can read. You simply read naturally because it's who you are. That's the feeling you need about being a successful writer. I could see him struggling with this concept. But how can I feel natural about something I'm not yet? Oh, I said, there's your second problem. You believe you're not yet a successful writer. But in consciousness, the only reality, you can be a successful writer right now. Not trying to become one, not hoping to be one, but being one naturally as you're currently a reader. I gave him a specific practice. For the next month, I told him, stop imagining your success as a future event. Stop feeling excited about what it will be like when you make it. Instead, assume you've been a successful writer for years. Imagine the ordinariness of it. Imagine checking your book sales the way you currently check your email, routinely, without drama. Imagine interviews and book signings as just part of your normal working life. Make success feel boring, natural, taken for granted. He looked at me as if I'd lost my mind. Make success feel boring. Not boring in a negative sense. I clarified. Natural. The way breathing is natural. The way your heartbeat is natural. The way your ability to read is natural. Success should feel so normal to you that it would be strange not to have it. This young man took my advice seriously. Over the next months, I watched a subtle but profound transformation occur in him. He stopped talking about his dreams with breathless excitement. He stopped imagining success as this miraculous future event. Instead, he began to carry himself as someone for whom success was simply normal. His writing improved, not because he tried harder, but because he wrote from a different consciousness. He submitted his work differently. Not desperately hoping for acceptance, but naturally expecting it. He spoke about his writing career differently, not as a dream he was chasing, but as a reality he was living. Within 6 months, he had his first book deal. Within 2 years, he had 3 published books and a growing readership. But here's what fascinated me. By the time his success manifested physically, he wasn't surprised or excited. He felt it was natural, obvious, exactly what should be happening. That's how you know naturalness has been achieved, when the manifestation feels inevitable rather than miraculous. But how do you cultivate this feeling of naturalness? How do you make the extraordinary feel ordinary? How do you take something you desperately want and make it feel like something you simply have? First, you must understand that naturalness comes from familiarity. Things feel natural when they're familiar, when you've experienced them often, when they're part of your regular existence. This is why I teach people to imagine their desire fulfilled, not once, not in one glorious imaginal act, but repeatedly until it becomes familiar. Imagine it so many times that it becomes boring. Imagine it so consistently that it loses its charge, its excitement, its special quality. When you first imagine your desire fulfilled, it's thrilling. Your heart races. Every detail seems precious and meaningful. This is natural. You're encountering something new in consciousness. But if you persist, if you imagine this same scene night after night, something remarkable happens. The thrill fades. The excitement diminishes. The scene becomes familiar, routine, ordinary. And this is exactly what you want. When your desire feels ordinary in imagination, it's ready to become ordinary in manifestation. A businessman once told me about his experience with this principle. He wanted to expand his small company into a major enterprise, but whenever he imagined this expansion, he felt overwhelmed with excitement and barely contained nervousness. It feels too big, he told me, too impossible. Every time I imagine owning a major company, I feel like I'm pretending to be someone I'm not. I instructed him to imagine not the moment of expansion, not the drama of growth, but simply the ordinary, day-to-day experience of being the owner of a large company. Imagine the routine of it, I said. Imagine answering emails, attending meetings, making decisions, all from the consciousness of someone for whom running a major company is perfectly normal. At first he found this difficult. His mind wanted the drama, the excitement, the specialness of success. But I insisted, make it boring, make it routine. Imagine it until you could do it in your sleep. He followed this practice faithfully. Night after night, he imagined the ordinary activities of running a major company. Gradually, what had felt impossible began to feel possible. What had felt extraordinary began to feel ordinary. What had felt unnatural began to feel natural. The transformation in his actual business was remarkable. As his consciousness of being a major company owner became natural, his decisions changed, his behavior changed, his very presence changed. He began to naturally act in ways that someone running a major company would act. Within 18 months, his small company had grown into exactly the major enterprise he had been imagining. But by that time, it felt completely natural to him. He told me, "The strange thing is, I can barely remember when running a large company felt unusual. Now it just feels like who I am." This is the power of naturalness. When something feels natural to you in consciousness, it must manifest in your world, because consciousness is the only reality. But I must warn you about something that trips up many students. They try to force naturalness. They try to convince themselves that something feels natural when it doesn't. This doesn't work because consciousness cannot be fooled. True naturalness isn't an act you put on. It's a genuine feeling that develops through persistent imagining. You can't fake it, but you can cultivate it. Here's the key. You cultivate naturalness by removing the charge from your desire. Most people charge their desires with desperation, need, hope, excitement, or fear. All of these emotional charges keep the desire at arm's length, marking it as something special, something other, something not yet possessed. To remove the charge, you must imagine your desire so consistently that it becomes mundane. Imagine it until the thrill wears off. Imagine it until it's no longer exciting. Imagine it until it's just normal. Think about something you have that you once desperately wanted. Perhaps your current home, or your car, or your relationship, or your job. Remember how exciting it was when you first got it. Remember how you couldn't believe it was yours. Remember how special it felt. And now it's just your home, your car, your relationship, your job. It's familiar. It's normal. You don't wake up every morning marveling that you have it. It's simply part of your life. That's naturalness. And that's the feeling you want to cultivate about your desires before they manifest physically. A woman once told me about her experience manifesting marriage to a specific man. For months, she said, I imagined our wedding day. I felt the excitement, the joy, the thrill of finally being his wife. But nothing happened. He seemed no closer to proposing than when I started. Then one night, she continued, I was exhausted from imagining. I lay in bed, and almost without thinking, I imagined us in bed together, not on our honeymoon, but years into our marriage. I imagined it being so ordinary, so familiar, that I barely noticed it. I fell asleep from the sheer ordinariness of it. The next morning, something had shifted in me. When I saw him, I didn't feel the desperate hope I usually felt. I felt calm, natural, as if we were already married, and this was just another day. Within 2 weeks, he proposed. Within 3 months, we were married. But here's the interesting part, she concluded. By the time we actually got married, it didn't feel like a big event to me emotionally. It felt right, natural, inevitable, like something that had already happened long ago and we were just making it official. This is the ultimate sign that you've achieved naturalness. When your desire manifests, it feels obvious rather than miraculous. Now let me share with you a technique I've used successfully many times. I call it the boring technique, though there's nothing boring about its results. Choose your desire, whatever it is you want to manifest. Now, instead of imagining the exciting moment of getting it, imagine the most ordinary, mundane moment of having it. Imagine the boring, routine, everyday experience of living with your desire fulfilled. If you want wealth, don't imagine winning the lottery or receiving a windfall. Imagine casually paying a bill, glancing at your bank balance without concern, or making a routine purchase without checking the price. If you want love, don't imagine the first kiss or the proposal. Imagine a quiet Tuesday evening, doing something ordinary together, feeling the comfortable familiarity of being loved. If you want success, don't imagine the award ceremony or the moment of recognition. Imagine a regular workday doing what you love, it being perfectly normal and expected. The more ordinary, the more mundane, the more boring your imaginal act, the more powerful it is. Because ordinariness equals naturalness, and naturalness equals manifestation. I remember when I was manifesting my teaching career, I didn't imagine standing before large crowds receiving thunderous applause. Instead, I imagined sitting in a quiet room, preparing for a lecture the way a teacher who had been teaching for years would prepare, routinely, naturally, without drama. I imagined answering letters from students. I imagined the ordinary work of teaching. I imagined it until it felt completely natural, until it would have felt strange not to be teaching. By the time I actually stood before my first audience, it felt like I had been doing it for years. There was no nervousness, no sense of impossibility, no feeling that I was doing something extraordinary. It felt natural, and because it felt natural, it unfolded naturally. Here's another crucial aspect of naturalness that many overlook. Naturalness extends to how you relate to waiting. When something is natural to you, you don't anxiously wait for it. You don't desperately check for signs of it. You don't worry about when it will appear. Think about something you know will naturally occur. Perhaps you know the sun will rise tomorrow, or you know spring will follow winter, or you know you'll be hungry at mealtime. Do you anxiously wait for these things? Do you worry they might not happen? No, because they're natural to you. This is how you must relate to your desire, not anxiously waiting for it to arrive, but naturally knowing it will manifest because it's already yours in consciousness. A gentleman once asked me, "But Neville, how can I feel natural about something that hasn't happened yet? Doesn't that require denial of current reality?" I replied, "You're thinking of naturalness as a relationship with physical circumstances. But true naturalness is a relationship with consciousness. In consciousness, your desire is already fulfilled. Making that fulfillment feel natural in consciousness is not denial, it's recognition of the only reality that exists. Think of it this way," I continued. Before you learned to read, reading felt unnatural, impossible. But someone who could read knew it was natural. The naturalness wasn't about current ability, it was about consciousness. Now that you can read, reading feels utterly natural. Has reading itself changed? No. Your consciousness of reading has changed. Your desire is the same, I concluded. It doesn't feel natural now because your consciousness of it is still treating it as special, future, other. But in consciousness, it can be natural right now. And once it's natural in consciousness, it must become natural in experience. Let me share one final story that illustrates the ultimate power of naturalness. Years ago, I knew a woman who wanted to move from a small apartment to a beautiful house by the ocean. Her current circumstances made this seem impossible. She had modest income, no savings for a down payment, and housing by the ocean was extremely expensive in her area. Most people would have imagined winning the lottery, receiving an inheritance, or some other dramatic intervention. But this woman understood naturalness. Instead, she began to imagine the most ordinary moment she could think of in her oceanside home, making coffee in the morning and glancing out at the water. That's all. No drama, no excitement. Just making coffee, glancing at the ocean, it being perfectly normal and natural that she lived there. She imagined this scene every morning for months. She told me it became so familiar that sometimes she'd wake up and for a brief moment expect to see the ocean before remembering she was still in her apartment. Within a year, through a series of events that seemed remarkable to others, but felt natural to her, she was living in that house by the ocean. And when she invited me to visit, I watched her make coffee and glance at the ocean with such casual familiarity that you'd think she'd been doing it for 20 years. The strange thing, she told me, is that I can't remember when this felt unusual. It just feels like where I've always belonged. That, my friends, is the power of naturalness. When your desire becomes so natural in consciousness that it would feel strange not to have it, that's when it manifests. Not before, not through force or effort, but through the irresistible power of naturalness itself. So tonight I invite you to examine your desires. Which ones are you holding at arm's length with excitement, hope, or desperation? Which ones are you treating as special, extraordinary, miraculous? Those are the ones you need to make natural. Those are the ones you need to imagine not as future possibilities, but as present realities. Those are the ones you need to strip of their charge and their drama and their specialness. Make them boring. Make them ordinary. Make them natural. Imagine them until they feel so familiar that it would be strange not to have them. When naturalness becomes your dwelling place, manifestation becomes your inevitable experience. Not through struggle, not through effort, not through hope or prayer, but through the simple, natural, inevitable unfolding of consciousness into form. The feeling of naturalness, this is the secret. Cultivate it, dwell in it, make it your home. And watch as everything you desire becomes not a miracle, but simply the natural expression of who you are. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and you are the operant power in your world. I'll see you in the next video.
My dear friends, tonight I want to share with you something that will revolutionize your understanding of wealth itself. What if I told you that right now, as you listen to these words, your imagination is already constructing the bridge between your current state and the abundance you seek? What if the very restlessness you feel, the dissatisfaction with your present circumstances, is not a curse, but a divine signal that your consciousness is expanding beyond its current limitations? You see, we live in a world of infinite possibilities, yet most of us remain imprisoned by the evidence of our senses. We look at our bank accounts, our circumstances, our apparent limitations, and we conclude that wealth is for others, never for us. But I am here tonight to tell you that this is the grandest illusion of all. The truth is this: wealth is not something you acquire. It is something you assume. It is not a destination you reach. It is a state of consciousness you inhabit. And if you have been feeling stirrings within you, if you have been experiencing certain signs and sensations, then I tell you now that your imagination is already preparing the way. But here's what most people miss, and this is crucial. The signs of approaching wealth are not what you think they are. They're not found in your external world first. They begin in the invisible realm of imagination, in the depths of your consciousness, long before they manifest in your physical experience. Let me share with you the sacred signs that indicate your consciousness is shifting toward wealth, toward abundance, toward the life you were meant to live. The first sign, and perhaps the most misunderstood, is what I call divine discontent. You begin to feel restless in circumstances that once seemed acceptable. The job that once provided security now feels like a prison. The routine that once brought comfort now stirs an inexplicable unease within you. But here's what's fascinating. This is the exact same feeling that every wealthy person experienced before their breakthrough. They all felt this divine stirring, this holy dissatisfaction with mediocrity. Most people resist this feeling. They try to silence it, to return to their former comfort. They medicate it with distractions, numb it with routine, or worse, they judge themselves for feeling ungrateful. But I tell you this, that discontent is not your enemy. It is your salvation. It is consciousness itself, stirring within you, preparing to expand beyond its current boundaries. Think of it this way. When you outgrow your clothes, they become uncomfortable. The discomfort isn't a punishment, it's evidence of growth. In the same way, when your consciousness outgrows your current circumstances, those circumstances become uncomfortable. Suddenly, you can't stay in that job that once felt stable. You can't remain in environments that drain your energy. You sense a calling for something more, even if you can't yet define what that more is. When you feel this divine discontent, you are like a seed that has been planted in the darkness of the earth. The seed must crack open, must break apart from what it was, before it can become what it is meant to be. This breaking is not destruction, it is transformation. And here's the secret that changes everything. The moment you stop resisting this discontent and begin to embrace it as a sign of your expanding consciousness, you align yourself with the very force that creates worlds. Consider the story of every great fortune. They all began with someone who could no longer tolerate their current reality. They felt the divine discontent, and instead of silencing it, they listened to it. They understood that comfort is the enemy of growth, and that God, your own divine consciousness, will disturb your peace to shift your direction. The second sign is the sudden flooding of your mind with ideas, visions, and possibilities that seem to come from nowhere. You find yourself imagining scenarios of success, wealth, and influence that feel both foreign and familiar. You wake up with business concepts you've never considered. You see yourself living in ways that your current reality cannot support. Pay attention to this. You're not just unhappy with your circumstances. You're being flooded with visions, ideas, and plans. You're waking up with thoughts you didn't go to bed with. You're thinking about business models, creative ventures, investment opportunities that seem to arise from thin air. This is not daydreaming, my friends. This is imagination, the divine faculty by which all things are created. When your imagination becomes active in this way, it is because consciousness is preparing to clothe itself in new forms. These visions are not random. They are revelations. They are consciousness showing you what is possible when you expand beyond your current limitations. The mistake most people make is dismissing these visions as fantasy. They say to themselves, "I'm just dreaming," or "I'm being unrealistic." But I tell you that these visions are more real than your current circumstances. They are the preview of coming attractions, the blueprint of your expanding consciousness. Listen carefully to this. Every great fortune, every magnificent achievement, every transformative breakthrough began first, as an imaginal act. The external world is simply consciousness made visible. When God, your own divine I Am, speaks to you, it is through inspiration. He deposits vision into people he intends to use. If your mind is suddenly fertile, with ideas that seem beyond your previous thinking, you are likely being led toward the wealth connected to those ideas. Your imagination is not showing you what might be. It is showing you what shall be, if you will only assume the feeling of its reality. Don't ignore these visions. Don't dismiss them as impossible. Instead, live in them. Feel them. Assume the feeling of their fulfillment. Because in the realm of consciousness, assumption is the only reality that matters. The third sign is the mysterious alignment of people, opportunities, and resources around you. Suddenly, conversations lead to connections. Books appear that speak directly to your vision. People emerge who can help you in ways you never anticipated. Watch this carefully. It may start small. Someone offers help. An old contact reconnects. You discover a podcast, a book, or a mentor that speaks directly to your situation. Doors start opening where once you saw only walls. This is not coincidence. There is no such thing as coincidence in the realm of consciousness. This is the infinite intelligence of your own I Am orchestrating events to support the state you are growing into. When you begin to assume the feeling of wealth, the entire universe conspires to confirm that assumption. Here's what you must understand. These alignments are not happening to you. They are happening through you. Your consciousness, expanded to accommodate wealth, is now attracting the experiences that match that expanded state. The infinite intelligence that you are is working through relationships, timing, and information to bring about the fulfillment of your assumption. You may find that someone you haven't spoken to in years suddenly reaches out with an opportunity. You may discover that a book you randomly picked up contains the exact knowledge you need. You may meet someone who introduces you to someone else who changes your life. These are not accidents. They are the natural result of consciousness in motion. The moment you truly grasp this principle, you realize that you are not a victim of circumstances. You are the operant power in your own experience. You are not waiting for luck. You are creating the very experiences that others call lucky. The fourth sign is an increase in your spiritual sensitivity and discernment. You begin to hear the voice of your I Am more clearly. You start to distinguish between the thoughts that come from your limited, conditioned self and the inspirations that arise from your divine nature. This refinement is essential because wealth without wisdom is dangerous. God, your own divine consciousness, cannot entrust you with abundance until you have developed the spiritual maturity to handle it responsibly. You may notice that conversations that once entertained you now seem empty. Environments that once felt comfortable now feel spiritually stagnant. This is not judgment. This is growth. Your consciousness is tuning to a higher frequency, and what once resonated with your former state no longer matches your expanding awareness. This is the secret the wealthy know but rarely speak. True wealth is first a state of consciousness, and only secondarily a collection of material things. The fifth sign may seem contradictory, but it is perhaps the most important. Sometimes, before your consciousness can expand to accommodate wealth, it must first release what no longer serves your highest good. This is perhaps the most confusing yet powerful sign: loss. I know that sounds contradictory, but hear me out. Sometimes before consciousness multiplies your harvest, it clears the field. You may lose a job, a relationship, a source of income, or even your sense of direction. In the moment, this feels like defeat. It can feel devastating. But I tell you that loss is often the universe's way of creating space for something greater. It is consciousness clearing the field before planting new seeds. Here's the truth that will change how you see every loss. Sometimes consciousness subtracts to prepare you for a greater addition. It removes what no longer serves your destiny so that your hands will be free to receive what does. Look again at what you've lost. Was it really serving your highest good? Was it truly aligned with the person you're becoming? Often, we cling to things not because they're good for us, but because they're familiar. We hold on to jobs, relationships, and situations that drain our energy because we fear the unknown more than we trust the process of growth. But consciousness, your own divine awareness, knows better. It knows that before you can hold more, you must release what is keeping your hands full. It knows that before you can receive the new, you must make space by releasing the old. When you understand this principle, you stop cursing your losses and start blessing them. You recognize that what appears to be subtraction is actually preparation for multiplication. Every ending is a new beginning. Don't curse the loss. Understand its purpose. Wealth isn't just gained by addition. It often comes by subtraction first. The question is not, why did this happen to me, but what is this making room for in my life? Trust the pruning. What you lost may not return in the same form, but what's coming will make sense of everything that's been removed. The sixth sign is perhaps the most profound. You begin to experience a peace that defies explanation. Even when your external circumstances seem uncertain, there is a quiet confidence within you that all is well. This peace is not based on evidence, it is based on faith. It is the peace that comes from knowing that you are not separate from the source of all abundance. It is the calm assurance that what you have imagined, what you have assumed, what you have felt to be true, must and will manifest in your experience. This peace allows you to act without anxiety, to plan without panic, to move forward without fear. It is the sign that your consciousness has already accepted the reality of your wealth even before it appears in your external world. When you have this peace, you know that you are not hoping for wealth, you are expecting it. And expectation is the feeling that precedes manifestation. The seventh sign is a fundamental shift in how you speak about yourself and your future. You stop using the language of limitation and begin using the language of assumption. Instead of saying, I hope I will be wealthy, you begin to say, I am wealthy. Instead of I want success, you declare, I am successful. Watch this transformation carefully. You no longer speak like someone defeated. You no longer see yourself as a victim of circumstance. You're not just thinking about surviving. You're beginning to believe in thriving, even if your current bank account doesn't match your mindset. This is not positive thinking. This is consciousness speaking. When you truly assume a state, your language naturally reflects that assumption. You cannot maintain the feeling of wealth while speaking the language of poverty. Your words are not separate from your consciousness. They are the very expression of it. Remember this biblical truth. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. If your inner life is beginning to echo abundance, gratitude, generosity, and vision, it's only a matter of time before your outer life reflects the same. The change is spiritual first, then physical. You stop thinking small because consciousness itself is expanding. You begin to see yourself not as you were, but as you are becoming. This shift in self-perception is one of the most powerful indicators that wealth is on its way. Your words are not just sounds. They are the vehicles by which consciousness expresses itself in the world. Every word you speak is either confirming your current limitations or affirming your expanding possibilities. The eighth sign is the paradoxical increase in your desire to give, even when you feel you have little to give. True wealth consciousness is never stingy or fearful. It operates from the assumption of abundance, not scarcity. Here's something that might surprise you. Many people on the path to wealth start giving more before they ever receive more. As strange as it may sound, your spirit begins to understand the law of sowing and reaping. When you begin to feel wealthy in consciousness, you naturally want to share that wealth. You understand that giving is not loss. It is circulation. It is the way consciousness expands and expresses itself through you. You no longer cling tightly to every dollar. You start blessing others, giving without fear, because your heart trusts that what you release returns to you multiplied. This generosity is not calculated. It is spontaneous. It flows from the recognition that you are not separate from the source of all abundance. When you give from this understanding, you are not depleting yourself. You are affirming your connection to the infinite. This isn't foolishness. This is faith. And generosity is the soil in which abundance grows. If you're feeling more drawn to giving, that's a powerful sign that consciousness is preparing to increase your storehouse. The wealthy know this secret. You cannot outgive the universe. Every gift you give is a gift you give to yourself. When you give from a consciousness of abundance, you are not making yourself poorer. You are making yourself richer. You are demonstrating to consciousness that you believe in its infinite capacity to provide. The ninth sign is an insatiable appetite for learning and growth. You begin to invest in yourself, in books, courses, mentors, and experiences that expand your understanding of wealth, success, and consciousness itself. This hunger is not mere curiosity. It is consciousness preparing itself for greater expression. You cannot maintain a state of wealth consciousness without constantly expanding your understanding of what wealth means and how it operates. The knowledge you seek is not just practical, it is spiritual. You want to understand not just how to make money, but how to live as a wealthy person. You want to know not just the techniques of success, but the consciousness that underlies all success. Remember, wealth is not something you get. It is something you become, and becoming requires constant growth and expansion. The 10th sign is the development of an inner strength that allows you to persist through challenges that would have previously defeated you. You find yourself able to do things that once seemed impossible, to continue when others would quit, to maintain your vision when others lose faith. And here's what's remarkable. Suddenly, things that once overwhelmed you now inspire you. You find strength where you used to find excuses. You stop procrastinating. You start showing up early, staying late, doing more. This strength is not human willpower. It is divine power flowing through you. It is the power of consciousness itself, expressing through your assumption of wealth. When you truly believe in your heart that you are wealthy, you find the strength to act like a wealthy person, even when the evidence suggests otherwise. That strength isn't just coming from you. It's flowing through you. That's consciousness equipping you. When it calls you into wealth, it also clothes you with the capacity to chase it. This strength manifests in many ways. The courage to start a business, the persistence to complete a project, the faith to invest in yourself, the determination to overcome obstacles. It doesn't mean the journey will be easy, but it does mean you'll be empowered. You'll find grace to do hard things that once seemed impossible. This is the strength that builds empires, creates fortunes, and transforms lives. And it is available to you right now, in this moment, if you will only assume it. Here is a fundamental principle that most people do not understand. Consciousness always creates the vision before it releases the provision. You will see the dream before you see the dollars. You will feel the calling before you touch the cash. You will have the idea before you have the income to fund it. This is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. Vision builds faith, and faith is the bridge between consciousness and manifestation. If you had all the resources from the beginning, you would not need to exercise faith. You would not need to grow. You would not need to expand your consciousness. And while that might feel frustrating or even unfair, it is actually a divine pattern. It's how consciousness works, not to confuse you, but to prepare you. Think about every major figure who was blessed with wealth and influence. Each one received a vision before they received the resources. The pattern is consistent. Vision first, provision later. And in between those two, there is a process, a period of preparation and testing. The gap between your vision and your current reality is not a problem to be solved. It is a space to be filled with faith, assumption, and persistent imagination. That gap is where the magic happens. That gap is where consciousness transforms itself into form. If you've ever been given a vision that felt too big for your current reality, you're in good company. Consciousness doesn't give small visions because it's not small. The gap between your vision and your reality is not a sign that you're wrong. It's a sign that you're called. Many people wait for money to start moving, but in the kingdom of consciousness, movement often precedes money. Consciousness looks for people who act on the vision before it's fully resourced. That's how it measures faith, and faith is what activates favor. Every moment you spend faithfully imagining your vision is a moment you spend building the bridge between where you are and where you are going. My friends, what I have shared with you tonight is not theory. It is the law of consciousness itself. These signs are not random occurrences. They are the natural result of consciousness expanding beyond its current limitations. But here is the most important truth of all. You do not need to wait for these signs to appear. You can create them right now through the power of assumption. You can assume the feeling of wealth, and that assumption will create the very signs I have described. When you assume the feeling of wealth, when you live in your imagination as if you were already wealthy, your consciousness has no choice but to conform to that assumption. The external world, being simply consciousness made visible, must reflect what you have assumed to be true. Tonight, as you listen to these words, you stand at a crossroads. You can continue to live from your current limitations, or you can step into the assumption of wealth. You can remain bound by the evidence of your senses, or you can live from the truth of your imagination. But let me warn you, signs are not the destination. They are the invitation. You must respond. When consciousness gives you a vision, you must act. When it opens a door, you must walk through it. When it sends the right people, you must listen. The choice is yours, and it is the most important choice you will ever make. Because the moment you choose to assume wealth consciousness, the entire universe begins to reorganize itself to support that assumption. Heaven provides the opportunity, but you must take the responsibility. Faith without works is dead. The signs are the spark, but the fire is your responsibility. So I ask you tonight, what will you do with the signs? Will you continue to doubt them, or will you discern them? Will you ignore the small whispers, or will you follow them into fullness? I leave you with this promise. If you will assume the feeling of wealth, if you will live in your imagination as if you were already wealthy, if you will persist in this assumption despite the evidence of your senses, then wealth must manifest in your experience. We are entering a time where those who walk in faith and obedience will see unprecedented favor. I don't say that to excite you. I say that because it's happening all around the world. People are being awakened to new purpose, new ventures, new visions, and those who listen and move will be the stewards of this new wave of wealth. This is not hope. This is law. This is not wishful thinking. This is the way consciousness works. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are the operant power in your own experience. If you're hearing this, you are not disqualified. Your past does not cancel your promise. Consciousness does not call the qualified. It qualifies the called. And if you're seeing these signs, you are being called.